one of the things they said, which I never understood, was that about the green and purple angel being the earth and the sun. The green angel was the spirit of the earth, which had this sort of a Kelly green, beautiful, clear, pristine color, and that the angel of the sun was sort of this ultraviolet color. And at one point I got it, I understood. I remember they had this experience, and I came back and I tried to put it into words, and it came out into a poem that just said, I am the sun, I am the earth, I am the sun, and yet really I'm neither one. Meaning that I knew that I was even beyond all of that. I understood. And but I didn't understand it in terms of words that I could communicate to anyone. And so I now feel that where we begin in this is through working to bring out the inner child and the inner innocence, and I think that nature is the place. Out of these synthetic environments, get out of these things that we have created in these rooms and these cars, get into the trees, and preferably even out of the country if you can, so that you're out of the very mindset that you're normally in, and to begin to interact with Mother Earth again from a whole new way. This is where I would suggest that you begin trying, and not in the actual meditation itself. You can continue to do the meditation and to keep working along those lines, but I think that for many people this is going to be an essential step. Now what the kahunas say is that at one point, after you've made connection with the lower self, with the subconscious mind, what happens is you have to play with it. You have to have fun. You have to enjoy yourself. That's essential. If you're not having fun, something's wrong. Start over again. Go back to go. The having fun it's really, really important. And in fact, there's a movie around this very thing that we're talking about called Hook. Many of you have seen about Peter Pan, and how Peter Pan is remembering himself as a child, and the things that he's going through there, and the things where he imagines the food on the table and all this, for those of you who've seen this. And if you haven't seen this, I highly recommend you go and see this relative to all this. There is a tremendous amount of truth. The whole play between the good and evil and all of that that's going on there is really it's a very sophisticated movie. And so you've got to play. And then what happens eventually, you will begin to see the coincidence happen. You'll begin to feel the life flow moving through you and the connection. You'll begin to see the auras around people and trees and beings, and the little spirits of plants and the divas that are real beings that become alive, and you can see them, and they come out. They're ultraviolet fields of light that you can see, and all these things begin to start taking place. And then you know you're on the right path. You know for sure. But the thing is about reaching to the higher self is that you have to ask permission from the lower self, from Earth, to connect to the higher self, which in my way of seeing it is the sun. And you have to ask permission to connect from the Earth to the sun, from the higher to the lower self, from the lower to the higher self. But the lower self may not allow you to. It may say, no, I don't want to do it. Let's play some more. And there's nothing you can do. You just got to have more fun. That's all you can do. You just have to keep having fun. And you just have to wait until the Earth thinks you are ready. In her wisdom, as a mother, when she sees you being her child, then she will, at the right time, allow you to go up and make the connection, not toward the Earth, but away out toward the sun and out to all life everywhere else. And there's just nothing you can do. but just move with this. And it's okay. It's the way that it's been set up. I didn't even know I was doing it. I didn't understand it. I was just doing it without knowing why or anything else. At one point, though, and many, many, many people out there in the Ascension community who believe that they are connected to their higher self are probably really connected to their lower self. Because you can ask information from your lower self and get any kind of information you can imagine, anything doing with dowsing, etc., and all these kind of things. These are all lower self connections. You can know anything through dowsing. You can know where anything is. You can know anything. But you're really connecting with your lower self and through the earth, not to your higher self. Your higher self is not going to be concerned with those kinds of things. And, but for me anyway, when I made connection with higher self, what happened was this golden angel began to become apparent in my field of vision, usually off in the back. And I would ask the other one, who's this angel over there? And they just would say, well, that's the golden angel. You'll eventually learn about the golden angel. I remember one time they said, okay, they came to us and they said, the golden angel wants to talk to you. And so we did this whole thing. We fasted for like 3 days, and we waited, and we thought the golden angel was going to come in and tell us, something that was going to totally change our lives. And it did say something extremely important, though it was so simple we didn't understand. We thought it was going to be a long something or other it was we were going to go into. So we got all prepared, and we waited, and the golden angel comes in. And we sat there and looked at him, and we were waiting. Okay, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? And he just looks at us very gently and says, it's only light. And goes away. And it went right over the top of our heads. It's only light? What do you mean it's only light? We didn't get it. It took me many years later to get that. That was like E equals MC squared. I didn't know what they meant. Though at one point I slowly began to understand what they really did mean by that. And then finally, I noticed that as I was beginning to communicate with my lower self, that the lower self would give me any kind of information I needed. In fact, there was a period of 6 months where the lower self told me every single thing that was going to happen the next day in great detail. I mean exactly down to when the telephones were going to ring down to the minute, and what they were going to say, and the letters I was going to get, and everything else like this. And you can ask all kinds of information from the lower self, and they'll usually gladly give it to you, no problem. But it's a polarity form of communication that was going on. I was talking to something that appeared to be outside of me. And then I noticed that in the beginning the communication was happening 3 and 4 times a day. But as time went on and the years went by, I began to realize that the angels began to appear less and less and less. Not that my connection to the earth was any less. I felt that all the time. But I didn't seem to need them very much. And then one day, about 3 years ago, or 2 years ago or so, I don't remember when it was, I was in Washington, and I happened to be in a medicine wheel on Orcas Island. And I was sitting there in a circle about to give a workshop when the golden angel appeared right in the middle of the circle and just looked at me. No one knew what was happening, but this was a big thing for me. The golden angel came right up to me and just turned and merged right over the top of me. And I knew in that moment that I understood that I had just made my connection with the higher self. And there was no more after that a sense of any need to ask anything. Because after that, it's just whatever I needed to know, I just knew. And I didn't have to try to plan or do anything. The reality just opened up for me and just did it on its own. Another level of communication with God began to take place. And I now know that this continues on in a growth process that goes on up all the way back to the source. though it may continue on various stages and levels. I don't know what they are at this point. But every time we come to those bridges, we'll know what to do, and that will be step. And it's just another growth step, and we'll be easily able to accept it as we go into each one. There is a problem that can develop once you have reached a higher self. I never experienced this, but the kahunas warned me about it. But I never had it, so I don't know. I have it not from direct experience, but what they said is that many times the lower self, in a very childish way, would imitate the higher self. And so somebody would think that they're connected to the higher self, or had been, and then they start communicating, thinking they're connected with the higher self when they're really connected with the subconscious mind. And so they would ask for direction to do something, and the subconscious mind would send them all around the world or doing things or something else like that, and was just playing with them. You know, they're not going to do anything to harm you, but they could definitely sit there and giggle and laugh at you doing things all over the place when it was not really aligned with the purpose that you originally came here for. And so the kahunas felt it was really important that every time you made connection with higher self, you asked, and usually you have certain steps that you develop on your own, you ask, are you the higher self? Because if it is the lower self won't lie to you. And it'll just go, no, sorry, I'm not the higher self. And so it's real important that you establish each time some kind of way to verify that it really is the higher self and not the lower. Though I never, if it did happen, I was never aware of it. I never had anything, I never felt any kind of prankishness on the part of my lower self. To go to another level, the higher self communicates through to you on so many levels that you have to use a really vast imagination to see it. It can be in any conceivable language, or languages that don't even exist, or languages that exist on other planets. It could be through colors, through sounds, tones, pulsing lights, feelings, emotions, your own voice. There are all kinds of ways. It could be through the reality itself. It could be through people that just come up and give you messages or license plate numbers, or all kinds of things in all kinds of ways depending on what it is that you want. And there really is no limitation except what you put on it. And I have seen all kinds of levels of communication in my own life that each time be in ways I would have never thought of, yet were very pertinent to my understanding. And but once this level with the higher self is established, once you have reached this, and you know you have, then everything changes in your life, and you don't have to be concerned. You've just won the game of life on every level at all. Everything you need to know and everything else, you just let go and just watch it happen. It just happens like a movie. And all the wisdom and all the knowledge that you need in order to use the Merkaba and all the information on exactly what to do and where to how to move in this reality, you'll just know. You'll know exactly what to do. There's no more a need of an external teacher or anyone else. There's you will find that you are whole, complete, and perfect, and lacking nothing within yourself at that point. And those levels of growth will continue on up and up and up, up into the higher levels. I'd like to clarify a little bit more about the lower self and the higher self.